Changing the playback behavior. Davinci Resolve 18 includes several playback features that you can use to simplify your timeline playback. In this exercise, you'll use the stop and go to last position feature to play back a specific part of the timeline based on the starting playback position. You can enable this feature in the playback menu or from the transport controls. So move the playhead to 1002200, which is right before Philip says ADA for the first time. So 1002200. Pretty much right here. So this is where he first speaks here. 12201, close enough. I could JKL it and get right on the money. Pretty close. In the transport controls, right-click the stop button and choose stop and go to last position. Here's the stop button. We're going to control click that and choose stop and go to last position. Okay. So it's either on with the checkbox or it's not on. See that? So when it's checked, you're in the right mode. Unmute the A2 track and start playback. Stop playback by pressing the spacebar just after ADA says yes.
Ada, identify the person in front of me.
Oh, wait. Let's see. Oh, unmute the A2 track. Forgot to do that. Okay.
Ada, identify the person in front of me.
Emiliana Newton.
And notice when I hit the space bar to stop playback, it jumped back to where I was. So when you stop playback, the playhead returns to the starting position. What did you think of the computer voice this time? This version of the voice was created by an actual computer reading the script lines. Now listen to A3 tracks to hear the final version of the voiceover. Of course, this final version includes some reverb and other processing effects to make it sound more like a computer voice. You'll work more with those effects in a later lesson. So we're going to mute A2 and unmute A3. Mute A2, unmute A3. Play the first few lines of the dialogue again to hear the final computer voice in context. When you're finished, stop playback and mute track A3.
Ada, identify the person in front of me.
Emiliana Newton.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, you can hear that there. Now, just so you can see it, A3, final voiceover. If we were to look inside the mixer, here's A3, final voiceover. Okay. And so it's right there in the mixer. Okay. All right. So now we're going to mute A3 by clicking the mute button. This time the computer voice was obviously recorded by a human with more subtle inflection and intuitive response. Now that you're familiar with the computer voiceover part, you're ready to set up your timeline for recording. Choosing a location for new audio regions. When you record audio files in the Fairlight page, you simultaneously create new clips in the timeline and media pool, as well as storing new media on your hard disk. Files are stored in the capture location on your system, while the corresponding clips will appear in the selected bin in the media pool. In this exercise, you'll create a new bin for the recorded clips and locate where the new files will be stored on your storage disk. So one, show the media pool by clicking here. In the master bin list, right-click the master bin and choose New Bin. Here's the master bin list right here. We're going to control-click that or right-click it and say New Bin. The new bin appears in the bin list. With the name field selected. Where's the new bin with the name field selected? Let's see, new bin. Additional bounced. Listen. Must be this bin 45. Wait, I'm going to go back in here and Command Z. Yeah, and that wasn't in there. So when I did that, you go to this master bin, control click, new bin. There it is. Now it's selected. See that? Okay. In the new bin's name field, type recordings and press return enter. So the reason it wasn't highlighted is because I switched back over to the book, but this is the bin here. We can control click it, rename it, and call it recordings. Click enter, and now it's called recordings. So switching back and forth to the book just made it to where it deselected the bin I just created. You just reselect it if that happens, rename it. You've created a bin for the recorded clips in your project, and now you'll choose a location to store the new files. For this project, you can use the default capture settings. However, it's a good idea to know where the default capture location is and how to change it. You can specify the location of your recorded audio files in the capture and playback panel of the project settings. So we're going to choose File, Project Settings, File, Project Settings. I'm going to move this over here just so I can have this open. In the Project Settings sidebar here, click Capture and Playback to show the Capture and Playback panel. Capture and Playback. Here it is. At the top of the Capture settings here, ensure that the Capture drop-down menu is set for video and audio. Capture, video, audio, like this. If necessary, change the Capture drop-down menu from video to video and audio. So if this is just on video only, you want to change it to video and audio. So that's the Capture here. Below the Capture drop-down menu, find Save Clips to Field. Right here. This location is where newly recorded files will be stored. The default capture location is the user's movies capture folder. For the purpose of this project, you can keep the current settings, but you do not want to do that in the lab because it will get erased. So let's navigate to where we want to save it. So I want to put it in the same folder where the lesson is. Okay? Right there. Listen to recording voiceover in ADR. I'm going to add a new folder, and I'm going to call this recordings. Okay. And say okay. And look, it changed it. So it's really important that you know where you're saving your voiceovers to. If you're on your own computer, you could save it to the default location. But if you're not on your computer, you're going to want to save it to your hard drive where you created the file structure for this project. Very important. Tip: it's always a good idea to check the capture location before recording audio or capturing video. Also, if you share a workstation and change the capture location, be sure to either change back or coordinate with the other users so you can all keep track of your media as you go. So if you're in a lab, change it to your hard drive, and everyone should be checking that before they save or record. Okay. Click in here, click Save. Setting the audio metering for recording. Before closing the project before closing it, File, Project Settings. So before closing this, before closing the project settings window, let's take a quick look at the Fairlight settings where you can set the audio metering to pre-fader metering on tracks for recording. So in the project settings sidebar here, click Fairlight to see the Fairlight settings here. And the audio metering settings, and here, click the pre-fader metering on tracks option to select it if necessary. Let's see, right here. All right, so the pre-fader metering on tracks option controls whether the position of the faders affects the meters in the mixer. So essentially what this does is it shows you your true recording input level. And no matter where you put your faders in the mixer, you're going to see the true recording level of your microphone input gain. Okay. So now we're going to save and close out of here. So what is a scratch voiceover? A scratch voiceover is a temporary recording used as a placeholder for editing, timing, and early approval process prior to recording and paying the voice artist to perform the final voiceover. Usually the voiceover script will change several times during post-production, while the edit and soundtrack are refined. In audio post-production, scratch voiceovers are often recorded for public address announcements, movie trailer voiceovers, and dialogue involving phone conversations. Creating a new timeline for recording. When manually recording in the Fairlight page, you have the option to record directly to a track in the current timeline or create a new timeline specifically for recording. Having the flexibility of multiple timelines in the same project is an advantage of working with Davinci Resolve. Throughout this book, you'll see examples of using separate timelines within a project for saving versions, experimenting with sound design, creating original sound effects, and more. In this case, recording to a new timeline lets you record and edit as many takes as necessary and bring all the resulting compilation back into the master timeline when it's done. Another reason for using a separate recording timeline is that it allows other collaborators in the same project to continue working on dialogue editing and assembly. while the voiceover is recorded in another room, building, or even another country via Davinci Resolve Cloud Library and shared multi-user project. You'll learn more about collaborative audio workflows in later lessons. There are many options for creating a new timeline, including using the File menu, right-click Contextual menu, and keyboard shortcut. In this exercise, you'll use the right-click option to create the timeline. First, let's go to the media pool to locate the text clip that will serve as the voiceover script, and then create a new timeline for recording. In the media pool bin list, media pool bin list, click the disclosure arrow to the left of the hyperlink or Hyperlight Audio post bin. This one here. If necessary, to see its contents, including the title for prompt bin. Okay, so if you have to, you can open it here. And let's actually slide that this way a little so we can see these. All right, Hyperlight footage. Title for prompt. Here it is. Hyperlight footage, audio, title for prompt. Select the title for prompt bin here. Is that it? That is it. Okay. Choose Show All Clips in the Media Pool Options menu, if necessary, to see the title clip in the Media Pool library. Title for prompt. Show all clips. Let's see. Show all. Back to list here. This right here. Show all clips. There it is. Okay, so originally it was just showing this VO, and by going to the three dots here and clicking Show All Clips, we can see the script, the text document. So let me back up here. I'm going to close that and close this. Okay, so to get there again, review. Media Pool, Hyperlight Footage, open this disclosure triangle, come to Title for Prompt, and make sure you click these three dots and Show All Clips. And you'll see the text document here. Click the title for prompt in the list and right-click the title clip ADAVO script and choose Create New Timeline using selected clips from the contextual menu. So click the title for prompt in the list here and right-click the title clip ADAVO script and choose Create New Timeline using selected clips. Like this. So I control or right click, create new timeline using selected clips. In the create new timeline dialog, do the following. Type ADA scratch VO as the timeline name. ADA VO. Set the number of audio tracks to 1. Right here, it's already at 1. Set the audio track type to based on selected media. It is here already, based on selected media. Click Create. The new ADA Scratch VO timeline opens with 3 tracks showing. 1, 2, 3. V1, A1, and B1. Okay. Let's see. The text clip in the V1 track here. An empty A1 stereo track here. And a B1 stereo bus track here. Tip: you can change the track type for new timelines in the editing panel of the user preferences. The default track type for new timelines is stereo. To simplify the timeline for recording, let's turn off the automation controls to hide the bus track. Click the toggle automation button to the right of the transport controls to turn off automation and hide bus tracks in the timeline. So click the toggle automation button to the right of the transport controls up here. This here. See that? So that actually simplified the view, got rid of the bus, and some of the other tools as well. A1 is now the only audio track showing in that timeline. Before you can record to a track, you must first set the input. This is referred to as patching a track.